Hotties, welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We are back to recap week 6 of the NFL season. Kind of a week of blowouts, if we're being blunt here. But yeah, I don't have like some whimsical intro. It's 12:21 here. Let's get into it. Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday night?
Pretty good. My parents were in town this weekend from Thursday night to Saturday, so it was good to hang out with them. We had an Airbnb, a cabin up in Estes Park, Colorado, and it was kind of in the woods, and it smelled very strongly of syrup. And before they were like, don't leave anything in your car that has an aroma because there's bears around. Like, don't leave anything outside that, smells strongly of food. And I was like, should we be worried that our cabin could not smell more like maple syrup? Because I feel like that's the treat a bear would like the most is maple syrup.
But maybe it wouldn't summon a bear because maybe they're used to that scent.
Maybe, and there's a lot of different cabins, but anyway, we didn't see a bear, but it was good to hang out with them. And I got some thrift finds. My girlfriend went thrifting this morning and found this poster of the Packers playing Super Bowl I, and then the 1961 Packers roster. So expect some decor behind me soon. So it was a good week, all things considered, and yeah,
it's cool.
Rock on. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing cool. I went down to Alabama. I just got back. I wasn't able to catch a lot of the game because I completely misjudged what type of driver I am. So that's on me, man. I don't have an excuse, dude. It's just like an 8-hour trip is fucking impossible.
What kind of driver are you?
A driver who doesn't like to go for very long. Like, it just sucks. Like,
I can't believe
my back
you
starts
drove,
hurting. I start
man.
freaking the fuck out. I thought it made sense. It was nice to have my car there, but it probably wasn't quite worth it.
Oh well.
But yeah, I mean, outside of that, just a kick-ass Saturday, dude.
I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Ohio State game morbidly.
It's the same as every time. I mean, just you get to the point where to defend Ryan Day, you basically you can't analyze the game at all. You can't talk about anything that's happened. It's just luck. It's just bad luck. He sucks. They suck. It's such a bizarre one. I mean, in terms of like their season, just like an on paper standpoint, this doesn't matter at all. Mm-hmm. Like, if they win out, they'll get to play Oregon again for the Big Ten championship game, most likely. And they'll get a bye if they win that, of course. So, like, not only is nothing off the table, but, nothing's really affected because to get a bye, they would have needed to do that regardless anyway, right? Mm-hmm. But the lack of pass rush is just killer in these big games. Their defense, like Burke got cooked. They have the depth at corner to replace him. They just didn't because they just didn't care, I guess. I don't know. Jermaine Matthews not going in, just bizarre. And then they get the ball, and then that's when the bad luck comes, of course. That's when all of a sudden they don't want it bad enough. I don't know. They're like the reverse Chiefs in a way. You know how everybody talks about how the Chiefs are like, they're so lucky. They're so lucky, dude. And the Patriots too. They were lucky as well. And it's not that they were lucky. It's just that, like, when a team wins all the time, the story of the game that you think about for years and years is what went right for the team that won, like what breaks they got and what breaks against the team that lost got. Okay, for Ohio State, they just always lose. So the story of the game is how'd they lose? And then you remember, like, all of the things that broke against them. It's not that nothing went Ohio State's way or they never get any opportunities, right? Like, imagine if OSU pulls this one out. What's the story? OSU got lucky that Oregon, like, blew 5 points on special teams errors and had an interception that didn't get called correctly. that would be the story. If that happened to Ohio State, in fact, if less happened to Ohio State, if they miss a field goal, a 50-yarder, then it's actually not Ryan Day's fault at all that he didn't win a national title, and we should hang the ghost banner, right? So it's frustrating, and it's like I know it's tough to quantify how much like the culture of the team matters in game. But when you have players before the game saying, I am scared of big time moments, if you believe that doesn't matter at all, then I don't know why a culture builder type of coach, which I feel like is something that's widely considered like good and important, would matter to you at all. And I think it'd be a very interesting look on college football. Oregon's a good team. Don't get me wrong. Give them credit. They played a great game, but like just pathetic by Ohio State to have the same problems over and over and over and over.
What is up, hotties? You know that when it comes to NFL football, Stay Hot has you covered. But who do you turn to when you need to make smart financial decisions? If your answer is our sponsor, NerdWallet, then you're absolutely right. And if it's not, then allow me to change your mind, because not only have they spent thousands of hours researching and reviewing over 1,300 financial products, but they have the tools you need to make smarter financial decisions. Looking for a credit card? Go beyond the basic comparisons. Filter for features that matter to you and read in-depth reviews. Ready to choose a high-yield savings account? Get access to exclusive deals and compare rates, bonuses, and more. House hunting? View today's top mortgage rates for your new home sweet home. So while Stay Hot is your go-to resource for NFL football, make the Nerds your go-to resource for smart financial decisions. Head to nerdwallet.com/learn more. NerdWallet. Finance smarter. Disclaimer, NerdWallet Compare Inc. NMLS 1617539. What is up, hotties? This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or months between appointments to experience it? Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily, silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro is your go-to for precision and style every time. So what makes the Chairman Pro stand out? First, it comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You have the 4-blade foil for a close, smooth shave when you want to go completely clean, and if a clean shave isn't your thing, you can switch to the stubble trimmer and keep your stubble sharp and polished. Another standout feature, the Chairman Pro is waterproof, so that means you can shave right in the shower, and cleanup is super easy with a quick rinse under the sink. So get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that's as smooth as you deserve. Use the code STAYHOT for 20% off plus free shipping. Again, that's STAYHOT for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. I really have 2 things to say about this game. The first is I thought for sure when I saw that a Herbert was on the field, I thought for sure the Buckeyes were winning. And then number 2, how do they not call a timeout after the offensive pass interference? What were they saving it for? If not for like a moment where you absolutely needed it, which is right then and there.
To leave the game with a timeout in your pocket is pretty crazy. I mean, some of it, Will Howard get down a little bit sooner, but some of it, like, call it at a better time, I guess. It was pretty.
I mean, that cost them, what, 12 seconds?
It's like, I think it was like something 9. Like it was, I think it was like 9 or 7.
It's still a lot.
It is. I mean, at the end of a game like that, it wasn't good. And then Burke.
And not being ready for clock management stuff when you had the play calling duties taken away from you is insane. How are you not prepared? It does not make any sense. It doesn't. I don't know. Like, they could totally, like, they have a chance to prove themselves again, but I don't know if they're going to.
Do you think they'll at least beat Michigan this year?
Yeah, I think they'll beat Michigan, but Michigan's like incredibly bad. Their quarterback situation is a disaster.
Yeah.
And like if all of a sudden we get to week like 10 and like Tuttle or something is starting to look like okay, it's not a guarantee Ohio State wins. It's not a lock. Nothing is for sure, but Michigan is a total different beast. Oregon's a lot better. And it was at Oregon, and it was a 1-point loss. But it's just happened so many times. To never be able to get these games is the problem. And I think people sometimes zoom in. You know, you see on Twitter the people who go, oh, stupid ass Ohio State fans really crying over this big time loss. And then they like have to tweet that like twice every year. And it's like, yeah, come on, you know how college football works. It's fine. But those people accidentally turn themselves into like Ryan Day defenders. So they kind of get what comes to them, I think.
Speaking of locks, we all hit on the Stay Hot locks this week. Go us.
Bang.
We did.
Never before seen.
We're getting a beat on it. We know what's going on now.
I think we are. And I think it's interesting because we forgot to do the locks in the episode. Well, it was kind of weird because Theo had to leave, so like things just didn't kind of pan out exactly right there. So we were like trying to figure out how to do the locks over text, and we all hit on them. So I'm very proud of us. But
can I also hit you with another thing? I was in Tuscaloosa. I was in a Tuscaloosa like Alabama bar.
Yes.
For the Alabama South Carolina game, dude. That shit had me crying.
Mm-hmm.
Tears of what? Laughter?
Just in general. It was just, dude, it was just funny. It was just funny as fuck, dude. Here's the thing, like South Carolina, I know this, if you're like an Ohio State fans, why are they always mad type of person, you might lose your mind here. But see, South Carolina is like not going to make the playoffs or win the national title or anything. So if they drop an extra game, it's like not a big deal. Like, it's not the end of the world. It would have been very dope for them to win, and I was a little pissed, but like, you should have been there when they got that onside kick, dude. That was crazy.
It was air sucked out of the building.
Dude, it was awesome. But then, you know what? I was enjoying that, and then I was at a different bar for the Ohio State Oregon game, and I saw our boys not getting the onside kick. Regardless, NFL.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things to say about college as well, and I think we can spend some time on it if
sure.
That's primarily what Matt was watching, because just a couple of my notes on Ohio State, and I was kind of more casually watching, but I just feel like their defensive line is not being maximized. When I scout JTT and Sawyer, they're just not pin their ears back and pass rush type guys. Like JTT especially was a little bit of everything when they recruited him out of high school, like a safety and a linebacker and just a jack of all trades. And I feel like when I watch him, he's so good erasing screens, and he's like kind of a weapon in coverage. Like, he longs to drop back, and they've got him rushing like he's Nick Bosa or Chase Young or something like that. And they only hit the same thing with Jack Sawyer a little bit. Like, he's not the bendiest guy to just be threatening the outside shoulder all the time. And it just feels like, and then on the back end, like if Burke is having a disaster game, they just don't quite. But I think it starts up front. It starts with how much time Dylan Gabriel had, and obviously I didn't expect Burke, who I thought was a draft prospect, to look like Ladarius Gunther in the against Julio Jones.
The problem is that Ohio State just has weight. Like, they have Jermaine Matthews behind him, who isn't even like, and he played great when he was in for OSU last year. And like Burke, like, dude, if you had left, we would have won this game. I can't believe it. You do know the lore behind the edge rusher stuff, though, right? We talked about this once before.
I think you explained it in the group chat when I was scouting JTT this offseason, because I thought he was going to declare for the draft.
I think that's so interesting. You can tell, you don't like, before anyone has brought it up to you, because it's that bad. Jim Knowles' defense is supposed to have the jack position, which is like a hybrid between a linebacker and an edge rusher, right? Sure. Larry Johnson, the defensive line coach, does not want that, and there's an in-team fight about that. So So Jim knows the DC cannot get a certain position to be played because of Larry Johnson, and then somebody put in like the last 6 losses Ohio State has had 4 total sacks.
Yeah, it's not good. And I feel like if you're Ryan Day, again, it comes down to like, what do you do here? Is the culture around the program the best? No, like Lanning has a better culture. He's like a cooler guy, and he's going for the ballsy onside kick and getting it. And he's like, I just feel like there's better coaches out there from like a culture and game management perspective, and like the staff can't really agree. And is Ryan Day calling plays? Like, is he any kind of guru at anything? Like, I don't know.
Matt,
I get being frustrated with him.
How long does this beef between the DC and D-line coach date back?
Like probably 2 years, I would guess, since Knowles got there, because Larry Johnson's been there before Knowles.
Okay,
this has been going on for a while, and the production's been bad from Ohio State's incredibly talented defensive line for a while. I ask this
because I feel like Ohio State does this a lot. When Jonathan Cooper was at Gahanna, he was a linebacker, D-end hybrid, and he would even drop and play a little bit of safety. He goes to OSU, they put like 40 pounds on him and move him down to D-line. And it ended up working out for him. But like, I find that interesting that this is not like a new thing that they...
Well, Larry Johnson has been Ohio State's defensive line coach for a long time.
Okay, so that checks out.
Yeah,
actually, I don't remember exactly how long, but yeah, he's been longer. It's just that Knowles and then that conflict started. It's just bad. It's like, how can you possibly let that happen? That's just such a risk. Like, imagine Nick Saban allowing that to go on. It's Nick ridiculous. You can't.
The other college game that I watched was Colorado versus K-State. One of those really ugly games that ends up being good at the end. So it's like, I can't quite tell if that was a good game or not, because I was like pissed off while watching the entirety of it. And then at the end, it ended up being exciting. I have 2 main takeaways, and it's mostly about Shiloh Sanders, the safety.
Yeah.
That guy would be at Carleton College as a GA if his last name wasn't Sanders, man. I was watching it with some Colorado fans, and I'm worried I'm never going to get invited back to watch a game there, because like every single time K-State drop back, I'm like, Shiloh, like unprompted. I'm just like, Shiloh is they're picking on him. Like, he's lucky he didn't get stiff armed there, and the running back didn't get the ball in the other hand. Like, I'm just, another missed tackle. They're going at him, and he's lucky that they didn't complete it. Like, I was just, every single drop back, I was just like, Shiloh has a red dot on him, and he's terrible, and he's going to lose the game for Colorado. And if Dion has to put family aside here and bench him. And I just feel like that wasn't super appreciated at the group I was in. I couldn't quite tell.
Getting and then coach's son treatment.
And then, but what everybody at the party could agree on is they couldn't run the ball. They didn't run the ball like the entire game. I think they ended with negative rushing yards, and part of that is because college counts sacks as rushing yards. But that's a problem in and of itself, where it's like Shedeur was taking brutal sacks, and then he had like an overthrow pick in the red zone. And then I tweeted like, rough night for the Sanders brothers, and everybody like started telling me Shedeur's box score. Like, I didn't know that. It's like, I understand that he's Colorado fan. Like, these fans,
you gotta be ready to rumble if you want to say Shedeur Sanders is not going to be the first overall pick.
I remember saying that Ted McMillan won his matchup versus Travis Hunter in the offseason, and I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. I was just like, yeah, way to go, Ted. And I didn't realize that he didn't have that many yards against him, but he did have like an awesome one-handed touchdown, and he got like open a few times against him, and he drew a PI, and like he definitely should have drawn another one. So like, as I'm watching the film, I'm just like, oh yeah, he's getting buckets on Hunter. And then I like tweet out the cut up or my stat or whatever, and just say like, Ted McMillan did a great job, beat Travis Hunter, and then everybody comes in with like the PFF, like, look at the yards. It's like, I did watch the game.
You got to do the Twitter grift where you're like, Ted McMillan versus Travis Hunter cut up. What do you notice?
Exactly. Well, I tried that, and then they were just like, well, this was a penalty, so it didn't actually count. It's like, we're like, I'm scouting, you know. All right. So, and I even said the Sanders brothers, which is like weighted very heavily towards Shiloh, but Shedeur also didn't really help at the end. I mean, he certainly wasn't their biggest problem at all, but he also had like several rough moments. So anyway, that's enough about the CU Buffs.
I was just seeing his stats: 9 rushes for negative 50 yards. Is there any reason why college football does that? Like, what if we made our stats
just because they don't throw? But it's a drop back, right? Like, but because they don't throw it, it's not a throw; it's a run. But I don't get it.
That's weird. Yeah, I don't.
When Will Levis had negative like 400 rushing yards. It's like, I think he's scrambling, and I just can't tell.
Not to say that
negative 400 rushing. It's crazy.
It's probably negative 200, but whatever.
Oh, that's hey. But if we want to get into the NFL, probably I want to start with Jags Bears. I don't know, Theo or Matt, if either of you caught the 9:30. Theo, I know it's super early for you.
I slept through the first 10 minutes of it, but at that point, I'd missed the Bears doing bad, really. And then when I woke up and turned the TV on, they basically
Jags
dominated.
Having like a really good first drive where they marched down the field and then did nothing else after that.
I went back and watched what I missed, and I also missed the Jaguars' defensive line doing something in the first quarter of the game, because I did go back and check some of it out. Like, Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker were collapsing the pocket. Like, Caleb Williams took a few sacks early. But then the rest of the game, they made a couple splash plays, but the Bears were really able to kind of scheme the pass rushers out of it. It felt like, or the Jaguars schemed themselves out of it, because they'd have like Eric Armstead and some other number 90. Several big plays for the Bears. Like, neither of the two Jaguars edge rushers were on the field, and it looked like they were replaced with interior defensive linemen. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what that's about. I guess they have no one who is a real edge rusher behind those two, because they have like Eric Armstead like trying to bend the so no, man, he can win as a 3-tech, and even he's getting worse and worse at that.
The number of times where they just lost integrity in pass rush, like, I don't know if you posted this, Theo, or if I saw someone else do, but where Hines Allen like was really doing like a pretty decent job getting pressure on Caleb, just kind of backing up the tackle. But there's this chasm between the tackle and the guard, and so Caleb just runs through that and gets like a 20-yard gain.
Yeah, they're one of the worst defenses. I know Mina Kimes was talking about how bad the Jaguars' scramble defense has been and how often they've been gashed, and it was the exact same story today. Like you say, no pass rush integrity, subbing out your stars and not having suitable replacements for them. They're playing. The Bears are about to salt the game away. It's the second half. They're up double digits. Yeah. They're like in 13 personnel under center. And I see the Jaguars playing too high with their backup linebackers 6 yards deep. I mean, if you're the offensive line there, you're like, hell yeah. And they just ran it right down their throat when they needed to. And, Caleb was executing pretty well. He's turned the season around, definitely, although I do think it's fair to point out that he's played like the 3 worst defenses these last 3 weeks.
Might be true. he did put up 70 points on the Jags and the Panthers.
The Rams and the Panthers. So, it's good what progress he's making, but at the same time, I'm just like, man, these defenses are really, really bad, especially without a Luakun for the Jaguars. And is Tyson Campbell playing, or were they just not throwing it at him? I don't think he was out there. No, he wasn't.
I was tapped out today, like I said before, but I do have a question.
Yes.
I did see on my Twitter timeline the weird Gabe Davis trend hate phenomenon. But then I'm looking at the box score here, and it's 2 touchdowns.
Yes, he did.
So what the hell happened?
But he also dropped a lot of passes.
One of those was a very garbage timey type touchdown, and when it was 0-0, he did get hit in the chest, and it bounced off of his chest on 3rd down and goal. Yes. And there were a couple drops in the end zone for Trevor Lawrence today.
The fade on the right side, should have reeled that one in.
Brian Thomas Jr. is selling my bet for him to lead the league in passing touchdowns. He dropped one that was right on his face. There face mask. There were several drops today, and some
Trevor
big ones from. He played all right. I mean, I don't think it was his necessarily fault that they lost because of all those dropped touchdowns, and but also I mean, none of these games have necessarily been masterful. He was pretty good against the Colts, but this game wasn't necessarily great or terrible from him. I thought he had a desperation pick at the end, and I don't know what the route was there. Everybody was just kind of getting past the sticks and settling down. And it looked like, I don't know, it looked like the receiver may have broken kind of into the underneath zone. Like if he broke going right, he could have boxed everybody out, but he kind of went up into the left and just ran right behind somebody. But then again, Trevor Lawrence, why was he on the same page there and throwing it to where somebody was? Right. So it was just a gross day from the Jaguars from beginning to end, and combined with a day when Caleb was on the money. He was super accurate outside of the one underthrow for a pick, but his little slant, his little sluggo that he put on the back shoulder to Keenan Allen, and the fade to Keenan Allen as well. A couple 3rd downs. It was a lot of Keenan Allen. It looked a little Herbert-esque, a little Keenan Allen buddy ball on 3rd down in a tight window underneath.
Keenan Allen
converting 3rd and 6. Right, Cole Kmet as well. Some screens that broke big. The Cole Kmet touchdown. Ronald Darby is chasing a slant across the field, and then the linebackers passing the out off, and it was just a mess on defense, especially. I thought that defense was worse than the offense.
That this Jacksonville offense was only able to put up 16 against a pretty depleted, due to injuries, Bears defense.
Yeah, Trevor missed a touchdown, another touchdown to Brian Thomas Jr. That was open on TJ Edwards, and he underthrew it. That didn't help. And in general, I thought the linebackers made a lot of plays, Edwards and Edmonds, and I don't know. The Bears defense did well. They didn't throw at Jalen Johnson at all.
Did they not?
No, I don't think they threw at him one time. Maybe once at the very end. So it was a good day from the secondary overall. Byard had a sick PBU, just kind of falling away.
Byard, I saw around the football a lot. He was playing well.
Mm-hmm. Montez Sweat had a sack, so the linebackers played super well. So they're depleted, but their secondary is so good that they still got some difference makers, and then the Jaguars just missed on some opportunities.
Yes, Jags team stinks, and they've got to sulk in their suffering for another week while they're still overseas.
Right, they're in London again. They have to stay in London all
next week.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Drake May comes to town.
I guess London's a nice city, but still, maybe London's better than Jacksonville. I don't know.
Is London better than Jacksonville?
I guess I've never been to either place. I guess Jacksonville could be better than London, but I suggest not.
I don't know. My girlfriend went to London for study abroad, and I feel like she enjoyed every other city that she visited while she was in Europe much more than London.
Ooh.
So
I went to London when I was 9. I liked it. I went on the London Eye for my birthday, all the way to the top.
bang.
All the way to the top, huh?
Yup. Honestly, you would have thought it would have been scary because of the height, but it's really not. It's such a secure big pod.
Matthew Sponhour confirmed not afraid of heights.
I know I am.
Oh.
That's credit to the London Eye that it wasn't scary.
Okay, that's fair. Well, yeah, so the Jags have to stay in London for another week. And then Drake May comes to town. And Drake May made his debut today.
Yes.
Against the Houston Texans. And I saw a lot of people say, man, why'd they have to pick this game to be his debut? And sure enough, they lost pretty bad. But I think it's very clear that the offense is better with Drake May than it was with Jacoby Brissett.
They did score 20 points for the first time all year. They had 3 passing touchdowns.
Against a good defense. I mean, the Texans are a good defense. And there were some mistakes for sure from May. But I found it really interesting the number of times where the Patriots would try and run it on first and second down, and it would just be like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, and now it's like, all right, May, go throw something. And I'm like, this is horrible offense. I tweeted that out, and people were like, yeah, Van Pelt is a terrorist. He's horrible.
Van Pelt's not having his strongest year, no.
Yeah, so that stuff was concerning to see from a play calling perspective. But you know, when they gave him like regular passing opportunities, he seemed to be pretty accurate, except he had one really bad pick that kind of sailed.
That I saw.
Totally airmailed it. It was single high man coverage, and he just like right over his receiver's head. Never had a chance for it. There was a strip sack that was pretty bad. Danielle Hunter made a great play to get the pressure, but the one thing that kind of sticks out to me is I wonder if May is going to have a similar issue for maybe a couple of weeks that Richardson has, where he's almost too stubborn to leave the pocket. There were a few times where he was willing to scramble, but it felt like he really wanted to like prove that he could stay in and like deliver a throw almost to his hindrance at times. So that's the one thing that I would be concerned about, but it kind of felt like he was just trying to like get comfortable back there sometimes. So I don't know how much of that is like trying to get comfortable, or if like you're like, no, I can stay in here and I can hit these throws from the pocket. And obviously he's not Richardson, so he can't like stiff arm a guy off of him. But
I didn't think his problem was so much that he was like scared to scramble or should have scrambled way more. I thought his main issue in the pocket was like he just brought the ball back when he shouldn't have on that strip sack. Like someone was breathing down his neck, like right behind him. You can't bring the ball back in that situation. That's one where it's like
he wanted to bring it back earlier, and then he was like, oh no, not yet. And then he pulled it back, and it was like, if you would just release that sooner, probably would have been a better throw. So yeah, I see that as well.
It looked a lot like I expected it to look, really. I mean, it wasn't a terrible debut. I mean, when you consider, like, I thought he looked better than basically all the other quarterbacks in their debuts. Caleb, even JAYDEN, like, didn't have a great game against the Buccaneers. Bo Nix obviously was horrible. Like, May did a pretty decent job if we're going by debut. But if we're going by, like, the quarterback performance and how it stacks up amongst all the others this week, like, he did struggle with some of the things that we thought he could struggle with, or everybody like kind of acknowledged with him, is that he misses some layups, and there were really some ugly misses, including the pick. But like outside of those, like, I thought his footwork wasn't always the best, and I'll have to look through the film a little bit more to tell you more about
he threw
that.
His back foot a couple more times than I would like him to, just unpressured, just like, I guess this is where I'm releasing it from.
Yeah, there were some too where I thought he was just kind of like hopping around. I wish I had the better recall on this one.
I'm watching right now, and I agree.
Yeah, I thought they were just.
He also he's just like
clean.
Standing weird sometimes. He needs to cut that out.
Yeah,
He just stands weird.
there wasn't like the clear like, oh, one hitch you're here, one hitch you're here. Maybe there were examples of it. Again, I'll go through the film a little bit later. I was watching the Pack and the Washington and Baltimore game, and I was like, I'll come back to May a little later, maybe. Yeah. But I didn't think his footwork was always the best. But he is a lot faster than Jacoby Brissett. I think he moved around the pocket with more intent, right? Like, he did escape some sacks, and like he stepped up and threw across his body at one point to Hunter Henry for an explosive play.
That was a great play.
The crosser to Pop Douglas was right on the money. They hit a go route and the 2-minute warning to Booty for a touchdown. And
I know someone in the 32-man league was jumping out of their seat. Keyshawn Booty went crazy.
Yeah. But like Brissett didn't hit really any deep balls his entire time as a starter. And that's why I think he got benched is like, look, our offensive line is terrible. Our receivers are terrible. We cannot sustain any kind of drives without deep shots or scrambles. And Brissett just isn't moving around well, and like his deep shots are landing in like random locations. So even though he does kind of some nice things in the quick game, my thing is like the offense is more at risk with Brissett under there than May. Like I understand everybody's so worried about May getting hurt and his future getting derailed, and like I get it. And he did take a beating today. Will Anderson had 3 sacks. Like the tackles got hurt or torched. He even did come up kind of lame. But Brissett, as big of a hits as May is taking, like Brissett is taking bigger hits. And like, why is like Brissett took such a beating, and there's just no way that he can really escape it, and there's no way that he can shorten drives because his deep ball is so bad. So I feel like everybody on the offense, including Brissett's injury risk, is higher. Like if you're not playing your best player at the most important position, like things get worse in a lot of ways. And I think May outplayed Brissett in the preseason. And the offense really wasn't great in this game at all. But there were some aspects. The run game being
bad, I think, is what really killed them the most.
Montre being out.
They had to throw all the time. I mean, the run game was non-existent. Gibson was 13 carries, 19 yards, just completely useless on the ground. Drake May was their leading rusher on 5 carries for 38 yards.
That's a good point.
I mean, embarrassing run game. I mentioned this on the last episode. The option to like try and sit May for the whole year would be a huge confidence killer, especially considering, like you just said, Theo, he outplayed Brissett in the preseason, and Gerard Mayo said it himself. Mm-hmm. You're telling me that you think I'm better, but you won't insane. That would be just crushing. And maybe it wouldn't be a confidence killer. It'd just be like irritating.
Yeah, and I think...
And like everyone in the locker room would know it. It'd be like, you think this guy is better. Play him.
It's just better for everybody when you have the better guy out there. It's the same thing with Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. Like, Bryce Young is kind of the opposite situation where, like, he's the young guy, but he's bad enough that you want to get him on the bench. And the reason that you want him on the bench instead of like seeing what he has and developing him, because Dalton, like he's better, but there's no meat on the bone. But the reason you want to start Dalton is because you owe it to the rest of the team to have somebody who can make make plays, and like they're going for contracts. And what if Bryce Young is, leading them into contact or overthrowing them, or whatever the flaw is. Jacoby Brissett has different flaws, but you're not letting the other players show what they have, and you're putting them in worse situations when you have the worst quarterback out there. And I think May is better than Brissett. So I really didn't think it was this disaster that they were playing him. And maybe it will, like, if May gets seriously injured behind that line, it will be, and I am scared of it. But at the same time, I get it, and I thought it was a somewhat encouraging debut, although he just certainly didn't light the league on fire.
He threw 3 touchdowns. I would say that's a pretty good debut. And one of the interceptions, he had 2. One of them was kind of an unlucky tip.
Totally.
Got tipped, pop fly up in the air, and the DB caught it around the receiver.
Yes, I've
just never seen that in my life.
That's a tough one.
I've seen it in some like college. I feel like I've seen it in some college games.
I've
like,
seen
at the
receivers
NFL,
catch a football on a DB's back. I've never seen a DB catch a ball on a receiver's back. That's never happened.
I've got a stat for you, Blaiden. You talked about how they seem to run it all the time on first down and then have Drake May pass it. So this is kind of a strange stat. Their first down pass rate was 33% in this game, which is in the 20th percentile for the week. Really not passing it much on first down at all.
Yeah.
Their overall run rate, though, was also 33%. So that just means they're running it all the time.
Mysterious third thing 1/3 of the time.
So, they're on first down, they're super run heavy, but over the course of the game, they're super pass heavy. Yes. And that just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
That was my fault.
No. Yeah. But I get it. It's kind of a confusing stat to say it. But
it's so funny.
And their run game is so bad without Ramondre that they're punting on first down, basically. Really, it's an advantageous situation, I feel like, for May to throw on first down. But instead, it felt like they were just protecting him or what they thought was protecting him earlier by handing it off.
It was every time it was a net negative. The first drive, I'm like, let's go. May's coming. I was so stoked. Unironically, I was so excited. Yeah. And the Browns were on. I was not watching the Browns. I was watching Drake May come onto the field.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, man. And they go inside run. Then just Drake May has to throw it away on 3rd and 9. And I'm like, dude, this could have been, that was the worst possible play sequence you could have ran. But I feel like every time that they went out and threw it on first down, Drake May had success. They would just do a quick outbreaker, get 6, 7, 8 yards, and now you're in second and manageable. And if you want to run it then, sure. I'll hear you out. But the run game was so bad that it just wasn't. It was never an efficient play to just hand it off and see. Mm-hmm. You're right. They punted on first down every time they tried that.
Yeah, it felt like they could have maybe unleashed May a little bit more than they did, and because they were just now when May's dropping back, you're just in a shitty situation, and he's really getting pummeled. So maybe more under center early, more play action. I don't know, but it's tough because they went down 14-0 early as well.
Right.
It's
but I mean that was also a kind of a result of their play sequencing early that put them in that situation. I'm trying to see, how long is Stevenson out? Do we know?
I don't know. I think he's probably kind of week to week. I don't think he suffered anything major. But shout out the Texans. Shout out C.J. Stroud. I was paying more attention to the Patriots offense, but Stroud I think continues to play at an MVP level. I feel like it's him. Yes. And I feel like it's Lamar Jackson, who I think is gunning for his 3rd right now as we reach the week 6 mark of the season. We're a third of the way through. I really just think it's him and Stroud in that tier 1 conversation. So, and he just continued to prove it against Washington. I don't know if you watched that one, Blaiden or Matt, but
that was the other game that I was watching in that window was the Ravens and Commanders. You locked this game, Theo. You locked the Ravens to beat the Commanders, and all the replies on Twitter were saying that they needed a Commanders win more than they needed air.
I'm a hater. Oh, you hate the Commanders for saying the best team in the AFC is gonna beat them. Maybe. Look, man, your defense is still ass. I'm not fooled. They had 2 decent weeks. They were still number 32. I was box score watching. I saw how low they were.
Decent week against the Browns offense. Come on, man.
I was noticing. Yes, I was noticing who they were having decent performances against. And yeah, they got cooked big time. big time.
It was bad.
They were in hell. I mean, this formula for the Ravens is just so scary when they can run on your loaded fronts. It doesn't always work, I guess, and it'll run into some problems, I guess, maybe against more difficult teams. But it was just so funny to watch them load the box to stop Derrick Henry.
He had and then Lamar goes yards per carry.
Lamar goes Yeah, 5.5 years. First of all, it didn't work. Second of all, they would just, with everybody in the box selling out to stop Henry, they would just run play action. Lamar goes 10 of 11 for 170 yards off play action. Like every single time it's a loaded box, everybody flies after Henry, and then it's like it was Zay Flowers who had 9 catches for 132 yards in the first half. Like,
and Bateman had a good game too. Like,
and Likely and Mark Andrews had a good game. Everyone had a good game against them.
Over 300 passing yards and 170 rushing yards. Like, dude, just complete masterclass of an offensive performance from them. I do want to bring up, because people say we don't say it enough, I think Jayden Daniels played a perfectly fine game. I think the Ravens did a good job at stopping the main threat of this Commanders offense in the sense that we talk about when the reason why his efficiency has been so high is because he can scramble instead of like throwing an errant pass or like trying to get the ball out. He just scrambles when his reads aren't there. And the Ravens did a great job of containing that. But, I mean, when they're sitting here and when they do that, they force him to sit in the pocket and deliver throws in the middle of the field and in the intermediates. And Theo, you tweeted out, some of the throws that he had. Dude, he was nails today. Like, honestly, he hit some really nice throws. I have to say it. Jayden Daniels played a good game. I'm willing to die on my sword a little bit, follow my sword a little bit.
This is my favorite game from him. Like, he's had big time performances already versus the Cardinals, versus the Cincinnati Bengals, but those are such terrible pass rushes, right? Like those are really bottom of the barrel defenses. Baltimore is a better defense, and they're not as good as they were last year, but for him they took away the scrambles, like you said, Blaiden. They took away the run game.
Entirely.
With no Brian Robinson, they really didn't run it at all. And Daniels is throwing it over the middle of the field super well. And if he's doing that and he's hitting the outside shots at the rate he's doing it, like he's such a good comeback ball thrower as well as the goes. But like on some of those comeback routes today, just like leading it away from the driving cornerback, like towards the sideline, he hit so many of those today. Connected on some deep shots or drew a PI on a well-placed deep shot. Did he hit any ones really far down the I don't know if it wasn't his best deep.
I didn't see the passing chart out.
Yeah,
I'm not remembering any.
I don't remember any like big time goes or anything like that. But like to Ertz a few times over the middle, he was money, including a tight window one at the end.
One of his touchdowns to Terry on.
Oh, that one was cool too.
Do you know which one I'm talking about? The one on like the left side,
the fourth down one. Yeah.
The fourth down. Terry's got his legs like wrapped up, and it is a perfect throw. That throw could not have been. You couldn't have walked out there and handed the ball to Terry, and it had been better placed. Daniels was absolutely money. The one thing that I'm trying to think about is it's a little bit concerning about how much the offense did get restricted when they couldn't run. Just because it felt like it was a little bit of like Daniels and Terry, and that was like kind of it. Yeah,
not only are they super dependent on scrambling early in the year, they're also super dependent on like quick throws and screens and RPOs, and like the Ravens blew all of them up.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of gets into, okay, this Washington offense is good, but this kind of felt like one where Kingsbury was maybe restricting them a little bit with screens specifically to the right side of the field, right? You look at the passing charts, there's never anything to the left. It's all like screens to the right, and I think that was totally taken away by the Ravens today. Maybe it got a little bit too predictable. Kyle Van Noy watched the tape this week. I don't know how many.
No, dude, Van Noy was on it. He was on it.
They weren't really winning pass rush wise because I think that they just, first of all, don't have that talented of pass rushers, especially on the edge. And then second of all, they're really focused on.
BK's good. And
yes. Was he playing today? I thought he wasn't.
I could have swore I saw his name pop up on my screen.
Oh, yeah, he did. He had half a sack. What am I talking about? Sorry, everybody. Yeah, that's an oversight by me. Yeah. But
no, you're good.
Yeah, they weren't really getting much pass rush, but every on some of these play action plays and these QB keepers and some of these auxiliary targets, like Van Noy would just completely blow them up. He ran around some pulling guards and got a tackle in the backfield at one point. So it did feel like they had a beat on some of these manufactured easy buttons for Daniels, and they couldn't quite overcome that with some the drop back passing game.
Daniels doesn't even always scramble just because he gets pressure. Sometimes the scramble is just where I want to go with the football isn't there. Let's pull it. And in those situations, like you said, the Ravens didn't necessarily have pressure, but they contained the pocket so well that it resulted in a sack. That happened early on in the game. Less so throughout, but that was something that kind of stuck out.
Daniels running this year is interesting to me because I do think it has been a little bit disappointing considering what he was at LSU. In that, really? and he's been scrambling at such a high rate, and he's very twitchy, and he's making people miss in the backfield. But we haven't quite seen the home run hit from him, which he broke off so often at LSU. He's not as much of a downhill force as Lamar Jackson, which is very obvious when you watch the two of them in the same game.
I agree.
Stepping up in the pocket as well as making that downhill cut. Jayden Daniels, I looked it up, is averaging only 2.3 yards per designed rush this year. But his scrambling is obviously a ton of yardage, and he's doing it a lot. But he's not quite the Lamar's tape. It looks like a running back in terms of his vision and physicality, and Josh Allen sometimes as well. Jayden doesn't quite have, or Cliff Kingsbury's offense with Jayden, he doesn't quite have that to him so far in the league, where it, like he did in college, you could call a QB draw and it would go he'd run by everybody for a score. And I thought that was something this game was missing a little bit, especially when you see Lamar ripping off a 33-yarder off a designed rush. Everything, He took some bad hits today. First of all, he would try to cut sideways, into pressure, and he did get ragdolled more than previous games. And he really didn't gain yardage much at all on these designed runs. And I think that is something to keep an eye on. Is it translated, but did it translate to the designed rushing game?
I want to say one more thing about Daniels, and then we can move on. I do, and it's a positive thing. We talked about pre-draft about how he takes some of the worst hits we've ever seen from any player, let alone just in college. I think that might be his biggest superpower as a passer, weirdly enough. I think about the go-ahead touchdown to Terry McLaurin against Cincinnati. I think about some of the throws he hit today. He just doesn't care. Dude, pressure he doesn't scramble because of pressure. He just doesn't care about pressure, man. He's if I'm going to get hit, screw it. Ball's coming out.
And he's got the fadeaway, too. He's been really good with pressure. He's been really good under pressure this year. The best in the league, I think, from an efficiency standpoint. And I feel it's because he can always, back up, and he's been super accurate while doing that. So,
Which is crazy, because I feel his ability to deal with pressure was one of his big weaknesses coming out of college into the draft.
It was a concern. I don't know if I marked it as a weakness. It felt like we never saw him under pressure at LSU. So it was so hard to gauge. Is he actually going to be good under pressure?
Well, he'd rip off so many times he'd scramble for an 100-yard touchdown. You know, and that's not really happening this year, but he's still good under pressure.
He scrambles the same way he did at LSU, right? He would be like it wouldn't be pressured. He would just be like, you know what? I've got a lane. I'm just going to take it. And that's kind of what he's doing now. But you're right. He's not ripping off like 80-yard touchdown scrambles. Right.
And I have another positive thing to say about him. He was moving people with his eyes today. He had a lot of time on a lot of these dropbacks, and he was using that time, I think, wisely, like looking down to the flat and then looking up, and guys would be more open than they were before. So the fact that he was doing that and throwing over the middle of the field, like as a runner, as a designed QB runner, he's not as powerful as the top mobile quarterbacks right now, I think. He's more, but as a scrambler, he's as good as anybody.
Kingsbury more than Daniels.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's still like so twitchy, making people miss on scrambles and doing such a nice job developing, I feel like, every week as a passer. So he's definitely he impressed me in this game. The Washington defense did not, really, is what it comes down to.
I didn't blame you for locking them. People were giving you crap for it, but yeah, their defense is just so bad. It's so bad.
Benjamin St. Juice did not have.
Yeah, they were picking on the secondary all day long.
Yeah.
And that brings us to, speaking of a defense getting picked on, should we talk about scoregami? Cowboys Lions.
Cowboys was a scoregami.
The Cowboys getting blown out was a scoregami this week, and it was a scoregami when they got blown out by the Saints.
Ooh, they're doing things that have never been done before.
They're getting uniquely blown out twice this year. That is crazy.
For those who maybe haven't listened to the pod for a long time, Theo hates scoregami, particularly the joy that it brings to people across the country. Theo?
I will always, whenever I hear the word scoregami, I get a Vietnam flashback to the kid at ASU who would list it off like every score in NFL history on an NFL game day when we were watching in the Sports J floor lobby. He's like, what, did you know 33 to 15 has only happened twice? And then he'd go to 33-16, and he did it for a whole day. And ever since then, I just think about how much
You've got trauma related to scoregami.
It's a perfectly fine concept. I just always think of that day. But
He hates scoregami, and he hates NFL Red Zone.
I wrote down a little statistic. It's kind of an advanced stat, though, for the Dallas offense today. 5 turnover margin. Not going to do too well given the Detroit Lions offense. 5 extra possessions is like kind of, especially when you're missing, were they missing Bland and Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence and I think Kendricks and
dude.
They're a pitiful bunch right now.
They are, man.
Again, like, I honestly, the big takeaway from this game, the big question is like, what do you think about Detroit? No Hutchinson.
Dude,
pretty bad,
first of all, it's a season-altering injury for the league. I mean, the Lions are 100% less intimidating than they were before, and what an injury, dude. One that I will never forget seeing. Like, his leg wrapped around Aleem McNeil like it was, I don't know. I think... Yeah. I think about those flood videos from like North Carolina. I saw a shipping container wrap around
exactly what you're talking about.
A light post. That's exactly what happened to Aiden Hutchinson's leg, and then it was like dangling in half after the play. I was, oh my god! I rewatched this one between the 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. window and the night game. And just like even just seeing him on the field early, my stomach just drops knowing what's about to happen to him. It's really bad, and I hope that he can come back and be close to what he was before, because he's having a very good performance and obviously an amazing season. But The dude, like, he's from Michigan, and he literally is like a Wolverine. Like, he is. If anybody can come back from it, I do think that it is him. But
he is the Wolverine.
It does kind of kill their defense, and it could kill their season.
Yeah, but the offense for Detroit looks phenomenal, given against like the worst defense in football. But I mean, what more could you ask them to do other than put up 47 points, 184 yards on the ground, 300 yards through the air? I mean, this is about as good of a performance as you could ask them to have.
Yeah, I think there is some. I don't want to completely write off the Lions, as important as Aiden Hutchinson is. Brian Branch today on their defense, absolute masterclass.
He's so good.
Aleem McNeil, absolute masterclass today on the defensive side of the ball. Like, put Wingo at edge, man. I saw his win rates. They're not looking too bad this year.
Come on, bro.
There's hope coming. They got some depth. I know it. So
true, man.
But it's going to be tough to overcome.
It's going to be tough. It's a bummer.
Maybe
dude.
Reddick. Maybe they can get Reddick.
That's what my first thought was, but like, you know,
who knows what's going on in Reddick's head right now with how much money he's lost, and his agency just dropped them. So it's like, what?
Really?
Oh, did they really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know what he's doing at this point. So. Can you get a deal done with him? I don't know.
If you want to sign Reddick, you got to call him directly.
Yeah, like, it's kind of tough to trade for Reddick right now when you know what the Jets just did. Like, I don't know if I want to trade for Hassan Reddick. And if you're the Jets, like, you could either get a 7th round pick for him right now or fine him for all he's worth. I think I'd rather take the money at this point.
Is it the Jets that are finding him or the league?
I think it's the Jets, but at any rate, yeah, it's a huge injury for Detroit. Yeah. But they did look fantastic. I do want to talk a little bit more about the Cowboys. They had a 5 turnover margin, but that's not the only thing wrong. Their run game, and their plan running the football. Like, obviously, there's a talent issue, and there's a running back issue, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we all know this. But, like, their plan going into this game, you know it's going to be a shootout, right? You're playing the Lions with the worst defense in the league currently. Yes. And I just felt like this was kind of a game where they were like, we're going to prove how tough we are, and we're going to run a lot of inside zone, and we're going to focus on that, like on first downs. And they had 7 runs for 11 yards in the first half.
Sounds like another team we just talked about trying to establish.
Sounds like a lot of teams in the NFL, honestly. So many of them just can't run the ball at all and are just like, well.
Sounds like the Seahawks on Thursday night. Sounds like the Jaguars. Sounds like I watched a lot of games in a row that were like that. So,
yeah, man.
Yeah, it's pretty atrocious. And then when they were passing it, Tua Tagovailoa-esque 2.36 seconds time to throw for Dak, and in the first half. Wait, this is on pass downs in the first half. I'm getting even more specific here. So in passing situations in the first half of the game, it was 4.0 air yards per attempt, 2.3 seconds to throw. And those are when you need to be, going band for band with the Lions. And they just are throwing screens, they're throwing checkdowns, they're running inside zone for no yardage. It's just like they can't go deep. CeeDee Lamb 2 weeks in a row. You can put so much attention on him. Last week, Minka, seeing him constantly, like huge doubles in the red zone. And a couple things happen. Like, either you look at somebody else and Dak has no chemistry with them, or you continue to look at CeeDee and it's just not effective. And when he is one-on-one, Dak gets too excited to take the shot and locks onto him. And even if he's not doubled, like, people know where the ball is going. And like, Brian Branch today left his assignment to go, like, double CeeDee Lamb on his own and robbed him in the red zone for a pick. So it's just, there's no good way to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb right now, I feel like. Just because there's just so little chemistry between Dak and anybody else in the receiving corps.
Yeah, I think it's a very serious concern, and it's something that we mentioned earlier kind of, or not even earlier in the year, in the offseason, we're like, this offense could be good because Dak and CeeDee had success last year, but the issue of no other no other serious receiving option, and no run game, it's just like, dude.
And I feel like they should be like force feeding one of the other receivers, like trial by fire. Like, I feel like that's what the Lions are kind of doing with Jamison Williams this year, is like, he's going to be our wide receiver too, and that's the way it is, and we'll see how it goes. Like, I feel like the Cowboys don't want to make anybody wide receiver too. They're like, there's CeeDee and then everybody else we don't trust. And that's where you get these moments where it's like, oh, they're double covering CeeDee, will run it. It's like, you need to make somebody afraid of somebody. Like, even if they're not, like, give Tolbert more chances. I don't know. He had a nice game-winning touchdown last week. Yeah. I just feel like there could be more of an effort to like make Ferguson more scary or make Tolbert more scary. And right now it's like they're just not giving him a fair, like, not a fair shake, but I don't know. They just need to be more dangerous. And I don't know. It's just poor all the way around. The line play poor, the receiving play poor. Like Dak, I think he's trying out there, but he's going back to turnover mode, and it's ugly all around on both sides of the ball. Maybe you were right, Blaiden. This could be a tier 4 team after all.
They did play one of the best teams. They played a tier 1 team, so yeah, everyone will look a little.
Yeah, a tier 1 team plays tier 3 team. This is going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, and I guess Micah is injured and stuff. So.
Yeah, they do have an unbelievable amount of injuries, and it was a particularly bad game. But like, dude, they stink, man.
Yeah,
they stink. It's unbelievable how much they stink with their core 3 guys. I know Micah was out, but still, like, they don't look good when they win either.
It's really like I feel like the Lakers when they stink with Anthony Davis and LeBron. It's like those two are good. It's just like the role players are like so shit right now, and I do kind of feel like the Cowboys are the equivalent of that right now. It's like, I know that their main 2 are still good. It's just like they're not playing their best.
Are against the Cleveland Browns, who have the worst offense ever. Or Theo said, what are they, the 6th worst offense?
I'm trying to remember. Austin Gale tweeted, I think he's been
tweeting like their success rate through 6 weeks, and it's like bottom 10 since 2000 of any team. So like, it's like 732.
Yeah, and I was telling Theo, I'm shocked it's that high. I mean, Watson only got sacked 5 times today, so maybe that's a step in the right direction. But they beat the they beat the Browns, they beat the Giants, and after that game, we were like, oh, they looked bad in that. Then they beat the Steelers, which was like, ooh, they didn't look great in that game either. So it's like, this team just. I don't love them right now.
They're atrocious. It's too dependent on CeeDee, and he's just being doubled to hell, and there's just no answers, really, is what it comes down to. And their line is way worse than it was last year, and it's as simple as that. Here's the exact Brown stats, and then we'll move off the Browns, because I don't think any of us watched them today.
I didn't.
Austin Gale's stat was bottom 8 drop back success rates in weeks 1 through 6 this millennium. Number 734 is Deshaun Watson with a 33% drop back success rate. The names below him since the turn of the century: David Carr, Mark Bulger, Josh Rosen, Akalai Smith, Jay Fielder, Blaine Gabbert, and Jamarcus Russell. Those are the only ones above him. And then there's a stat that I like even more in the comments from D Neckel 19. The Browns have not scored 20 points or thrown for 200 yards in any of their first 6 games. And the last team to do that was the 1999 expansion Browns. So they're the worst.
This team is so bad. They didn't score a single offensive touchdown today.
Let's go.
Their only touchdown was a Myles Garrett blocked field goal that Rodney McLeod returned for a touchdown.
That's right.
Embarrassing. And like, I'm at flag football practice, and I'm like, dude, like, we're not going to win this game. Like, there is a 0% chance. Like, the game was wrapping up. I'm like, there is a 0% chance they win this.
Yeah.
They can't score. The offense is horrible. But anyway, the Cowboys' next upcoming games are the 49ers, Falcons, Eagles, Texans, Commanders, Giants, Bengals. At least through the they might lose every game through the Commanders one.
Who, the Eagles?
The Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
They go 49ers, Falcons, Eagles, Texans, Commanders. They might lose every single one of those games.
I don't know if they'll lose every one, but it's not unthinkable. I mean, none of those are gimmies. Those are all real teams. It's a tough schedule.
They are real.
And it's a tough stretch to have Micah out for.
Yeah.
It gets a little easier. You go Giants, Bengals, Panthers right after that. That's not so bad.
Yeah, McCarthy might not survive the run. He's just not coaching well right now. His post-game press conference was pretty bad, I thought, just from like a body language and just what he was saying perspective. Like he was breathing super heavy and just like kind of stammering. It was not
It was
good.
bad in terms of how it looked and sounded.
It did look and sound bad. And Jerry Jones on the poor man's birthday was also giving a very bad press conference after the game. And I do think a press conference is an underrated thing to watch for a vibe check. You can usually tell when things aren't making a lot of sense, and guys are just kind of grasping it.
We're always the GOAT because he just never gave you anything.
Mm-hmm.
No one does that anymore. But Theo, you said you caught your Packers.
Oh yes.
Do you want to talk about them, or should we talk about the 49ers and the?
If you guys watched the 49ers game, that's when my parents came. So I watched like the first quarter, and then I had to go pick them up from the airport. I'm sorry, everybody, but it seemed like an exciting game, and all.
It was. Matt, would you like to talk about that game, or would you like to?
I didn't see much of it, man. I was driving there
Theo,
Thursday.
give us your rant on the Green Bay Packers, and then we'll get out, and we'll talk about that game.
Can I give you a rant?
Can
I give you a rant on a different team the Packers played?
Sure.
I watched more of even another team, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, putting up 51 points today on the New Orleans Saints. They did that, and here are Baker's stats, like more than 10 yards in the air. 1 for 10, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They put up 51 points with nothing, really, down the field. Liam Cohen, their offensive coordinator, is doing everything right now. I have been so impressed with the job that he's done. Like Dave Canales, their old offensive coordinator, was good enough that he got them to the playoffs, like turned Baker's career around and got a head coaching job. And like their new offensive coordinator is like blowing Canales' numbers out of the water. And I think that deserves more of like a storyline right now. Liam Cohen is absolutely cooking right now. Their run game is really, really good. Duo, like zone, gap scheme, all of it is working super great. Everything has motion. Everything has like an RPO attached or Baker with the potential to keep the ball and run it. Linebackers don't know which way to go. Like the motion men are really, really dangerous when they are like running across the field. Like an end around to Chris Godwin right now is a scary proposition. He's playing insane football. Chris Godwin being a lead blocker right now. If he's motioning into the direction of the run and then it's like clearing people out, that's a scary proposition. Whoever it is, one of the tight ends, that it can be anybody, it can be to anywhere, and I just feel like that area of their game is so strong right now. Like in passing situations, Baker he's been fine, but like third down has been a bit of a struggle for them. His sack rate, as it gets kind of later in the series, is really, really high. But in rundowns, like Baker is the number one passing success rate. And him and Jaden Daniels and Jared Goff, like when it's 1st and 10 or 2nd and 4, and it's unpredictable, like what they're going to do. They can run or pass. Liam Cohen is just just dialing up the best possible play call at all times, I feel like, and their yak threats are amazing. Bucky Irving, Matt, I don't know if you were able to see his highlights today. It was quite the day for him. And also Sean Tucker had a huge performance as well. Like, the two of them look fantastic. I wonder, Rashad White to the Cowboys was a thought that crossed my mind today, watching some of these games, because he's still a useful player. I feel like just Bucs don't need him. They don't need him at all. I just think Liam Cohen deserves a ton of credit, and I really enjoyed watching their offense today, especially on first downs, when really anything can happen, and anything can happen. Like, you never know what the play call is going to be, and they're successful at all of it.
I'm glad Bucky's cooking.
And then Rattler made his debut.
Yes. How was he?
I was honestly paying more attention to the Bucs, and I'll have to go back and watch. He didn't play the world's greatest game. He wasn't a disaster.
Let's go.
He was not a disaster, but it was a lot of just kind of boots, and he was kind of holding the ball a really long time, and it's
cool.
You know, I'll have to watch more though. I've got to be honest. I don't have a huge assessment on Rattler right now, but the numbers aren't great, and he did seem to be kind of just being a kind of a play action merchant, and even then it wasn't really saving him.
Hey, I mean, the Saints offense put up more points than the Browns, so they must have been doing something right.
No, no must there. The Browns offense put up what, 0-3? Did they kick a field goal?
They kicked some field goals, but.
And the Saints defense got many interceptions, and also returned a punt for a touchdown as well. So the Saints offense wasn't quite as potent as maybe the score suggests.
Okay. Yeah, I see a punt return touchdown and a defensive touchdown.
Yes.
Wow. Oh, wait, no, those are the same touchdown.
Yes. Yeah, none of the picks were TDs, but there were 3 interceptions.
Okay.
And then Jordan Love. What I'll say about the Packers, Jordan Love cooked today. He was on one. And that throw that I retweeted, and someone said, like, stop pretending this is a good throw, and it was like against the blitz, and he like drifts out and he like hits a back shoulder fade, like falling backwards. That was an amazing throw, and he had a couple top tier ones. This was his best game, and shout out Matt LaFleur with dialing up the screens. He like probably picked up 10 yards per screen today.
I'm watching this another week of people pretending like this was a good throw.
It's like the greatest throw you'll see. It's a big blitz.
A good throw.
Yeah, it's a very good throw. It's against a blitz. He like runs backwards. You know, he's got Dobbs on Murphy Bunting 1-on-1, and Murphy Bunting's back is turned, so he like puts it on Dobbs's back shoulder, and Murphy Bunting runs right past him. It's an amazing throw. And the thing is, like, yes, he did just kind of huck it up there in a 1-on-1, but also it's Sean Murphy Bunting. You know, like, you wouldn't do that if it was Patrick Surtain probably. But knowing the matchup that you've got and checking to that and hitting it,
if it was Surtain, he probably just throws it away.
Right, or he throws it to the drag going across the middle. That was open. Yeah, but because you have, like, Dobbs, and shout out Romeo Dobbs. I don't know why he was missing the last week. But I'm glad to have him back, and he played a great game, so shout out him for that.
This is what I've been trying to get my flag football quarterbacks to understand, man.
Just you're always open?
It's not even that I'm always open. I'm like, dude, if the guy who is guarding me, if his back is turned, I'm open.
Yes.
Like, I'm open. Like, even if he's like step for step, if his back is turned, I'm open. Throw the ball, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I'll show them that clip, and so that they understand what exactly I mean.
But that's all I saw. I guess there's the late night game, the Bengals beating the Giants, and my main takeaway there was Daniel Jones is pretty trash. They can't throw the ball against the Bengals defense. That's not good. And I think that Dexter Lawrence deserves to be Defensive Player of the Year. I really... Ooh. 7 sacks as a nose tackle. Like, he's wrecked several games. He's by far the best at his specific position. TJ Watt has a case. Fred Warner has a big case, But I think who's been the most dominant this year? I think it's Big Dex. That was my...
Fred Warner's been pretty phenomenal.
It's good. Those top three, it's tough to choose between. But I bet you that Dexter Lawrence is probably like a billionth in odds right now because he's a nose tackle and he's clearly been one of the... He's been the best defensive player of the year. He's been... I think he could... I mean, he's got 7 sacks right now and we're a third of the way through the season. If he gets to like 15 as a nose tackle...
Yeah.
I think it could happen. But with the season TJ as an edge and having the season that he's having is tough to beat, and rightfully so.
Because my thing, if Watt has...
I mean, like, Watt won the game for the Steelers today as well as that, but Dex didn't win.
Well, I guess Watt doesn't have, like, a ton of sacks, but I feel like he's just been all over the field. Like, he's doing so much for this defense right now. But I don't know. That's a conversation
early. It's really early.
It's super early. Conversation maybe for mid-season. We'll go over awards at some point. We'll talk about some of the other games we missed on our Wednesday episode, I'm sure, because we got through our tier list of stuff. So we'll get through some of those other games, talk about some of the other teams we haven't talked about maybe in a while. But it's late, so we're going to go to bed. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Stay Hot. Matt, you've been driving for a long time. Go get some rest.
Yeah.
People really liked your camera on the last episode. I didn't know if you read any of the comments, but they were
No, I didn't. I'll go read those, and then I'll get right to bed.
There were people that were like, I came from Spotify just to see Matt's beautiful face in HD.
Let's go. They're too damn sweet in those comments, man. I blush.
Dude, no, if you check the comments like within 30 minutes after the podcast post, it's like intro music just started, already a Matt masterclass. Dude,
and this sucks because like that one I've seen, and like this episode they have to lie. Like, this was a Matt disaster class. We can call this spade a spade. It happens, but we're coming back strong. I'm coming back strong on Wednesday. Thank you, boys, for carrying me because I can't plan trips well.
That's okay. I'll have a disaster class.
Theo
episode.
and Blaiden buddy ball.
What?
In the pick and roll.
The pick and roll. I'll have a disaster class episode early in December, so it'll all work out.
When the Browns are 1-10 and you watch them the same week, like Chiefs Bills happen, and we ask you what you thought, and you say, "Well, I didn't see that one."
It was like, what? What'd you watch? Oh, I watched the Browns and
Watson is just taking so many sacks.
He took 5 sacks today.
What the hell is wrong with them?
So Nick Chubb is supposed to come back next week. I know we're supposed to.
Are they playing at the same time as Chiefs and Niners?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to the next 2 Browns games.
Oh.
But I'm supposed to see Nick Chubb's like return. So I am excited for that. But
2 yards a carry incoming.
He's hyping himself up to
get your under bets in now.
Oh my god. I am excited to at least see Chubb come back, but yeah. I'm going to the Bengals game, and then
I'm red zone on the scoreboard.
And then I'm going to the Ravens game. So hopefully Watson gets benched by week 8. I can dream. But thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been an absolute blast. And until next time, when we go over some of these other games on our Wednesday record, Thursday release, we will catch you on the flippity flop.